Chat, chat, chat it, chat, 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 chat. Chat, 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 chat,
Yep.
chat, 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 chat. Hi. Hi.
Everything's good.
Everything good? Everything good over there on that screen? Looks like it.
Looks like it.
I see a camera. Camera sees me. I see you people. Yeah.
Yeah, just looking in the chat. So finish the Blood Bowl Dwarf. Oh, hope you do well in that tournament.
Hope you do well, Shadowmane, in that tournament, and everybody else that's out there in the world.
Well, you know, if you start doing Warhammer miniatures and put them on Instagram, there's a chance you wind up with Henry Cavill.
Yes, that is the best thing ever, being Henry Cavill's friend, because hey, he might hook you up some Witcher stuff. There you go. Or other things, just being friends. I think so. Be cool to be Henry Cavill's friend. You know, who also be a cool friend with is Keanu Reeves. I think it'd be cool to be Keanu Reeves' pal, old buddy, old pal. As long as he's not the Keanu Reeves from the one movie where he played a. Yeah, I can't say the words, but yep. Yeah, oh, it's fun. You're gonna crush it. Yes, I believe you're gonna crush it. I believe you're gonna crush it, Shadowmane.
I think I got some. He's doing Kill Team.
Okay.
Or Blood Bowl. He's doing Blood Bowl. There's not Kill Team. One of the other 40K that's for quad combat that my friend got us involved in. I'll have boxes. Have put them together. Like on my pile of shit.
You got a lot of pile stuff, but then I got a lot of pile stuff too to work through. But hey, I got time now, at least for a few months.
Well, you know, we got trying to get my crew to expand out now that somebody's doing Grey Knights. We don't have that army. I'm still in the process of building my Templars, but that's an ongoing thing. Actually, I had my son's friend ask me yesterday, or the day before, like, Steve, when are you going to start painting miniatures? Like, probably in a few weeks.
Yep. I say get to it. Let's do it. Diversify our creativity and the interwebs. And just being creative is always a cool thing.
Like, I'm getting there. I haven't felt inspired or motivated to paint, but I should start painting and doing more content around painting.
I understand an inspiration. Like, you know me, I'm a writer. I have stories that I haven't finished, but hey, after all the reading and writing I've done this semester, I think I'm gonna take a break from writing.
Hey, that's not a bad thing.
Yep, a total close to like 50 pages worth of writing I did. So yeah, it's a lot of writing. A lot of writing. But hey, it had to be done, and it's done, and it's turned in. So yay for semester being over. So, howdy people. I know we're just having a little conversation. Scuba's over there doing his clickies and typings and thingies.
You know, there's always stuff going on, man.
Yeah, it's always stuff. So hey, hope everybody's doing well. Hope everybody's having a great Wednesday. Had to remember what day it is. The days and the weeks just kind of fuse together, especially when you're in a routine of work and waking up and work and waking up. So
many things.
But a short week, I decided, hey, not a lot of stuff going on at work. I took off Friday. Why?
Friday?
Just took off.
Okay.
Just took off because I want to sleep. So, but yeah. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Oh yeah. Few things been going on since the last time we've been on the interwebs with you people. I went over. It's springtime, and with springtime, you know, the flowers are out. So one of the best places to go when flowers are out is the botanical gardens. And if anybody's familiar with Norfolk Botanical Gardens, it's a seasonal garden. So what that means is that different times of the year, certain parts of the gardens are in bloom. And in the springtime, the camellias, the azaleas, and certain parts of the gardens are in bloom, which I wanted to get pictures of. So I took my parents there, and we walked around for a good 3 hours, which is a good thing. It's like a great thing for my parents, you know, get them out and active, keep the blood flowing in the legs. But I got a lot of pictures. There was a lot of good flowers in bloom. Other than that, tried a new noodle place. I need to take you to it, Scoob. It's called 10 Seconds, and it's rice noodles. So it's what it is. It's another Chinese style noodles from the Yunnan province. So they do a little bit different, but it's still good. So different taste in the soup, different stuff that they throw in with the mixture of the ramen. They have different tiers of the ramen. So, you know, you got your normals and really spicy. I didn't get the spicy this time. Maybe next time if I'm brave. Other than that, finished school, games, movies, catching up on shows now that I have time. So that's good. Where you been going?
Saturday I went and got Saturday.
Saturday.
I got a haircut, but then just went out and got sunburn. I might be able to see a tint here.
Yeah.
You know, it was such nice weather. I figured I'd just pop the top off the Jeep.
Yep.
And I proceeded to drive around a bunch of the day with. Yay, that was smart.
Yes. Yeah, it is hitting those temperatures, so yeah, the sunscreen is probably going to be needed.
No, I think I've made 3 trips to Park Lane Tavern, that I explored.
Yeah, I noticed. I had a thought that you tried it because my Angelica was like, "Scoop liked our photo from the Park Lane Taverns," and I was like, maybe he went there, so that's probably why.
Yeah, we did a couple weeks ago. A couple weeks ago, Salad and I, because we were someplace to eat on Easter.
Okay.
And it was like had nothing else. Been nowhere, and we drove by it and was like, "What's this place like?" He goes, "I don't know. I've never been." Yeah.
Yep, I've been there a few times.
And we actually went there last night as
a
friends, and you know, because Tuesday nights they're half price fish and chips. And
hey, if you want to try it together one night, let me know.
Always down to go.
Okay.
Tonight's half price. Well.
I don't know if we can make it there tonight, but
just cutting out a bit. Okay, see if I can. No, thank you. It's have a.
Yeah, Shadow Main saying your mic's cutting out a bit. But yeah, Park Lane Taverns. I think it's a local chain because there's another one over in Hampton at the Peninsula Town Center. That's how I found out about it, and then when it eventually opened up here, I liked it. So, what's your take on the food? You like it? You like the setting? It's very Scottish setting, right?
Well, they said it was English foods and stuff like that, so I probably just need to sit close. Anyways, yeah, it was nice because it was European food. I think last week. I think the last week and a half has been a predominantly seafood themed diet.
Okay, well, there's nothing wrong with a seafood diet. I love seafood.
I mean, we and I hit the whole range, right? I hit the whole range. So I had at Park Lane Tavern, I had a haddock sandwich. So there's fish. I've been over to Sushi King. So there's the sushi side. We went to Pier 88 last week. Because I haven't been there in over a year. So there's the boiled seafood and crab and all that.
I know you've told me about that place.
It's not bad. I mean, if you haven't been there, it's a great place if you like the boiled bag seafood.
Yeah, it's
you go there, you order a bag, they cook it, they bring you out the bag, and you
lots
literally
of stuff,
eat out of the bag.
Yep.
And
there's a lot of places around here with that style now. So
well, ironically, in 2021 with COVID and everything and things were starting to just open up, we had seen the place and went over to check it out. Unbeknownst to us is we actually went there on their opening day.
Okay.
And so we're one of the first ones who was writing on the walls because inside they have all these walls.
You can write.
And they'll hand you the marker, but like, yeah, go and write something. So yeah, that was that was lots of fun.
Oh yeah.
Hopefully the mic is sounding better. Shadow Mains, please let me know. Or anybody else in the chat if you snuck in and you're just being quiet. But yeah, so last week was a lot of seafood, different environments, and then last night it was like went over to some friend's house Saturday night, Saturday night,
Saturday. Okay.
and hung out. Had striper because he went out fishing, caught striper. So striper and collard greens. Had collard greens for the first time that I can remember. If I've had it before and didn't realize or recognize, family can yell at me later. But I hadn't had it before, so it's like I had that, and it's like we were just hanging out, drinking, having a good time. But it was like it's like every other meal was like seafood in some way, shape.
Well, yeah. If I can eat seafood every day, I would, and I try to sometimes. Not just going out. I'll go and cook fish at home. The air fryers is a godsend because you can cook everything in it. But yeah, I love seafood. But yeah, it definitely whenever, sometime in the next couple weeks, you want to do the Park Lane, I'm always down to go there.
Well, ironically, next week happens to be a significant event.
I know, isn't your birthday next week?
Yep.
Because of the May the 4th be with you?
Yep.
Okay. See, I remembered something, people.
And
maybe because
thinking about doing Park Lane Tavern for birthday dinner.
Wait, what day is the 4th?
The 4th is a Wednesday. So, well, we can podcast and spend the show talking and spend my birthday doing a podcast. Or we can go out to dinner with friends and family, and
I say let's delay because just looking forward to next week because I do, I put all the notes and stuff in there. It's going to be a dry week. I'm not going to the movies this weekend because Doctor Strange is next weekend, people. Yep. But yeah, let's do that.
Air fryer with tuna. Totally.
Yes, I haven't done tuna. I do salmon a lot in the air.
Hold on, got an inbound call. Inbound call right on live. What's up? You are live with Scuba and The Ry. Nobody can hear you. That's awesome.
That is great. I can hear you.
What's up, dude? Oh, yeah. We'll talk about that in a little bit. I'll call you after the show and we can chat about that, okay?
Is it what I'm thinking?
That's the only thing on our mind right now.
Okay. Don't have to say anything.
All right. Talk to you in a bit.
Oh, yeah.
We're gonna talk about the Northmen
hey,
tonight,
you read my mind. I did see the Northmen, so I can give you...
That's on our movie review list tonight.
I'll give you my 2 cents.
Yeah, that was Saladin. He's calling because today my son went up to MEPS for possible enlistment into the army, and he's got a ship date to go to boot camp, and obviously that's causing some stir and some emotions amongst the house.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's we could chat about that some more, but even my daughter was like, "No, don't podcast. Go to dinner."
Yes, right. I think so. And I was going to be like, yeah, it might be a slow week because there's nothing really leading up into Doctor Strange. So you can prep for a Doctor Strange podcast influence the week after.
Yeah, see, so for our movie reviews, let's see, we both saw Fantastic Beasts, so we're going to talk about that.
I also saw the Nick Cage movie, The
Unbearable Weight of Talent.
Yeah, Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, which I'll tell you when I get to it. See? I did the flip. Did the flip. Well, you know what? Let's not delay any longer. Let's hit those reviews and then we'll go back to just, chatting about whatever. Chatting about my life, which is not that great, but we'll chat about somebody's life.
Yep.
Whose life are we talking about?
Well, let's hit let's hit the Northmen first.
Okay.
Talk about the Northmen first. All right. So this is I wanted to go see this movie this weekend, so I was actually thinking maybe we could push off this review after I watch it.
I'll give let's do...
Ry is very convinced I'm going to enjoy this movie.
I am convinced that...
I think I want to let Ry tailor his review to why I should go watch
Okay.
this.
Why Scuba? Let me move over here to the chat to see if Shadow Main said anything, but just keep me updated if he says something, because I'm gonna.
Yeah, he said he
Yeah.
said he just saw that.
Okay, so The Northman is the third film from Robert Eggers. If that name doesn't recognize, is because he's a very small indie film. He's only done 2 films prior to this, which one is one of my favorite horror movies, which is The Witch. You saw with me,
Yep.
you and our mutual friend Craig. And then the other movie, which I still don't understand what I watched, but it's still great because it's very artistry, is The Lighthouse, which was with Willem Dafoe and Robert Pattinson. Very quasi-psychological thriller. The Witch is a
quasi-psychological.
Yeah, The Lighthouse, and then
I remember we had it up while we were building the computers. It's like that movie. That movie's wild.
Yeah, I reviewed that. There was one of the films I caught up during the pandemic, and I was just like, "What the?" Yeah, but anyways. This is his third film, and this film is another one where he's changed up the genre. He's not doing horror, he's not doing psychological thriller. He decided to do something for the focus on Vikings and revenge. So with the Northman, it follows a character by the name of Amleth, played by Alexander Skarsgård, and he's a man defined by destiny. And you say, how is he defined by destiny? Well, he only has one purpose in life, and that's to avenge his father's death. Because in the beginning, this is not a spoiler, he witnesses his father, King, I'm going to butcher this, Arvandil, played by Ethan Hawke, who dies by the hands of his uncle, Florinir, played by Cles Bangs. And then after escaping all the carnage, the movie flash forwards it into the future, and you find Amaleth grown up, and through his, he's living with another Viking clan, and through their raiding of the land of Rus, he finds out that his uncle is still alive and has remarried to his mother, Gudrun, played by Nicole Kidman, and is living in Iceland. So through some convenient plot devices, he gets to Iceland, and he pretty much is plotting his stage of revenge to avenge his father. That is the simple plot line, simple thing of this film, and it doesn't stray away from that revenge tale. But why should Scuba go see this? Well, the simplicity is where the greatness comes from this film. Because Robert Eggers is a very much a auteur, he focused on the artistry of the idea of the revenge, and he does that in a way where he melds Shakespearean dialogue in a way, not like true Shakespearean dialogue, but the way he's writing it and the way he's writing the characters is very Shakespearean, but he fuses it with Norse mythology and Viking culture. So what you have in this film, it's not what you expect it to be. It's not a Braveheart. It's not a Gladiator. It's not one that glorifies, a good versus bad. It's a very much a kill or be killed. So there's a gray in the idea of what the characters are doing. And there's a questionable guy as to why Amaleth does certain things in the film, as well as his uncle. So the only reason you are slightly rooting for his character is because it's from the focus of his point of view, and you see that he's trying to avenge his father's death. But it doesn't make him a good guy. It doesn't make him a good character, and that's what makes this film so great, is that there's so much gray and cross-pollination of what is really the importance behind the idea of a personal moral code. Is it right to take revenge, but at the same time enslave people? Or is it the right for why the uncle does what he does? And I'm just touching that on the surface because as the film moves forward, you start to see certain revelations happen, and all the ancillary characters come into play and have an effect on Amaleth's life, and he starts to see maybe there's more to life than just revenge. And I'm gonna leave it at that.
Roads to live by. So what'd you rate this one?
Overall, this is probably a very great film. It's a very original film, so anybody complaining that there's no original films out there, here's one of many just this month. I gave it a 4 out of 5 full price. It's a very fun, entertaining experience, and very raw and visceral and world building. If you love visuals and world building, this movie is going to pop out.
Nice.
And Norse mythology. So, yeah.
All right.
4 out of 5 full price.
4 out of 5. Okay, so definitely go check it out. All right. Looks like my camera is catching up with me. All right, let's talk about Nicolas Cage and the unbearable weight of massive talent.
Yes, sir.
Nicolas Cage
playing himself. Yes.
With Pedro Pascal.
Yes.
And this seems like a buddy movie that is just completely off the rails hilarious.
Yes, and you touched on the surface that it is an off the rails style comedy, but it has a lot more layers and smarts to it underneath it.
Okay.
So, as you mentioned, Nick Cage basically plays himself, and it focuses on a man who is trying to figure out his purpose in life. So he has a lot of issues going on in his life, which basically what Nick Cage, by playing himself, it kind of makes fun of his own antics, how he's kind of a little bit crazy. He takes whatever role is out there, and he has financial issues, which is very prominent in the news. So he makes fun of himself while also portraying a character with like real flaws. So it's very much life imitating life, but in a way that is very satirical because it's a self-reflection of his world, but also self-reflection of anybody that deals with certain struggles with trying to maintain a career and maintain familial responsibilities. So because of that crossroads, he takes up this gig where he has to go to a lavish party by a prominent European billionaire, Javi, which you mentioned, played by Pedro Pascal, who is a super fan. So he is a super fan of the Nick Cage character. And a side note is that Pedro Pascal is perfect for this role because another additional detail is that Pedro Pascal is actually a really big fan of Nick Cage. So he gets to actually work alongside one of his favorite actors. So it makes it a little bit funnier knowing that. So what you have is a film that is basically a mixture of a satire on Hollywood teamed up with a bromance. And what you have a film that, with the film focused on their relationship between Javi and Nick Cage, it actually actualizes the concept of the film. So the satire of Hollywood, the satire of idol and fandom, the satire of just the art of how life imitates life. Because what you find out going about halfway through this film, without spoiling anything, the film becomes a mimic of what they're trying to do.
Okay.
And then on top of that, you get this like criminal element that gets thrown into the mix, which adds even more hilarity and silly situations, that it makes a lot of the fondness for the characters, especially Javi and Nick Cage, such welcoming and heartfelt, because what you have is two characters that have issues within themselves, where Cage is just trying to figure out a fixture to fix himself as a person because he has issues with his family and his career, not to mention Javi as a man because he so idolizes this guy that he can't see that he has issues too. So they basically become this perfect couple in a way, but it's funny and with all the situations happen. There are times when
see why Rotten Tomatoes is certified this fresh. And I can see why this is getting such good buzz.
It's getting good buzz.
What did you give it?
Overall, I gave it a 3.5 out of 5 in matinee. I got it lightly under a full price just because once the criminal elements gets introduced, the film does a great job of playing against type for about 80% of the film, but there's aspects where, you know, there's a convenient tropes and plot devices. It doesn't take away from the film, but it becomes way too obvious. But they keep the focus on that relationship and the fact that it's a satire of the Hollywood lifestyle and Nick Cage's life itself. It just stays freaking hilarious until the end. And especially how it turns out, it's very wholesome and funny at the same time. So
yeah.
I think you would, even though there's kind of like slapsticky, I think you would like it because it's a play against type. So if you have time to check it out somewhere down the road, check it out.
Cool.
Anybody who's a Nick Cage fan, you're going to freaking love this movie because the references that they do in this movie, it's not a wink, wink, nod, nod, but it's the way when you do references and you do Easter eggs, this movie is a perfect example of how you do that without being too obvious, but at the same time being obvious, which makes it even funnier in the satire. That's why I said it's very cleverly written.
Okay.
So.
Cool.
Now, Scuba and The Ry do the movies. Dun, dun, dun. Yes, Shadowmane, the movie is hilarious. I couldn't stop crying.
You know what? I would say, best time to go watch films in theaters these days, go in the morning. Less people.
I agree. But then I don't even listen to my own words, so don't pay attention to me.
All right, and the last one is Secrets of Dumbledore, the latest in the Fantastical Beasts Harry Potter sequel thing
Yep.
for the Wizarding World franchise.
You take it away, Scoob, and I'll fill in the blanks.
Yeah, so our third film in the series, where we finally get some payoff that's been leading up in the first two films, with Dumbledore. What is the secrets? What are Dumbledore's secrets? Why is he not engaging in the fight against Grindelwald? Why is he being so clandestine about it?
Pacos. Is it? No. Okay.
This film isn't bad, but I have to say right up front, this is probably one of the slowest films in the franchise.
I will agree with the slowness. Yes.
It has moments, but the pacing on this seems off. And you kind of get to the end, which it has a good ending. If they never do another Fantastic Beasts film, we're good.
Yeah, it seems like it wraps itself up minus one detail, but even that,
details.
Yeah, a couple details, but enough to where it could just be, this is it.
But this is such a slow movie that it's like very kind of anticlimactic.
Yeah,
I mean, let's be honest. So we have Dumbledore collects this group of people: Newt, his brother, a professor, his Muggle friend, and his assistant, and they're trying to another wizard who you don't see very much, but this group of people who are supposed to help him try to get a one-up on Grindelwald, who is trying to find a way to become the leader of the Wizarding World. And of course, he's the bad guy, so he's going to cheat. It's just, how is he going to cheat? That's what we're all waiting for. And then it just kind of meanders along down the river until it gets to the climax, and it happens, and you're like, okay, moving on. The characters don't feel very important. The story is very slow. It has individual moments.
It does have some great moments here and there.
I love Jude Law playing a young Dumbledore. His charisma and way he's portraying the character in this time frame is absolutely hilarious. Because he pops in, and you realize he's playing. He pops in, and he's just so kind of cavalier, and he gives off that air that he's one step ahead of everybody. And you're kind of wondering, you're trying to play catch up, and then he's gone, and it's like,
yeah.
So it leaves you questioning what's up, and then you get to the end. It's like,
yeah, like this film is, like you said, it does have a very slow pace. I think the first half of the film, it tries too much to re-explain a lot of the stuff that it really doesn't know what it wants to be.
No,
I think once the group gets together and they head to Germany, that's when the film actually picks up. I mean, there's still the slowness, but what I appreciate about the film is like it actually tries to be something separate than just being another Harry Potter film. It's trying to build the world, and I like the focus on the politics and the way that Grindelwald is trying to take over the world is a very indifferent way than typical villains. So they try to add dimension to the way Grindelwald is trying to take over the world, but at the same time, that conflict between him and Dumbledore helps carry the film along, because there is this intertwining of their relationship, but at the same time a conflict of what they believe to be right for the Muggles in the Wizarding world. So that's the plus. Some of the action is great, some of the creature design is great, but overall it's just a matter of placing characters within. It's like placing characters on a chessboard, and you're just moving things around because you want to move the plot from this point to this point to this point to eventually get to the point where they have the confrontation of the anticlimax at the end. So, but overall, I think, it's a hodgepodge of stuff. The story does, evolve beyond its foolery and forced intent, and it tries to give some gravitas to the world, but it strays too much to trying to connect to certain things that I think it just loses its way by the end. So, overall, I enjoyed most of the latter half of the film. The first half I could deal without it, but overall I think I still, because of the visuals and some of the action and some of the interaction of characters, I still enjoyed it. Especially Dumbledore and his brother's interaction, and his interaction with Grindelwald. It actually adds some kind of emotional depth to it. So overall, I gave it 3.5 out of 5 matinee. Still seeing it, good seeing it theaters, but at a certain price.
Yeah, I can't go. I honestly, I would give it a 2.5 out of 5 because I was severely disappointed, and I was quite frankly bored watching this film.
I can see that, especially.
Yeah, it's very. I mean, my wife and I went and saw this, and we were both ready to take a nap during.
Hey, I would.
I mean, I'm not gonna miss words or hold anything back. I'm gonna tell you straight up how I thought, and it's like I liked the film, but it didn't engage me very much. This felt like another one of those. I'd been fine if this came out on streaming platform instead of theatrical release, because I think the theatrical release hurt this because the expectation of a theatrical release versus a streaming release. Now that we're in an age where streaming release films are in some cases worthy that they should have been theatrically released. They should have been there first just for the big screen experience. This did not feel like this. I mean, I'd say it's definitely a couple steps above a made for TV special, but it definitely didn't feel like it had the gravitas the title would imply.
Yep, I don't. Like I said, I see your points, and you make valid points, especially with the slowness. When I think about slow is great if you know how to move the pace through it, which the Northman is a great example of slow and steady, but filling it with atmosphere. This one doesn't. It just fills it with chess pieces. Move here. But I enjoyed it just a little bit more. That's all. It's all good. But what do you think, people? Let us know at some point down the road. All right. That was quick.
That was good.
Oh yeah,
it wasn't bad. I mean, the films. We do the films, and we have, and since we're talking about that and that whole thing with sequels and prequels.
Yeah, I did. Like when we were talking about it, it actually sparked a discussion topic that I thought would be interesting to talk about. Talking about prequels.
Yeah, the whole thing with the prequels is, and I think where Warner Brothers and Fantastic Beasts are goofing this up is they went from the outset, they wanted to do 5 films.
Yes, they planned for 5, but without a real plan.
Now, watching the industry, they don't even have all the scripts.
Nope, or at least a treatment, as they call it. At least situations.
Yeah, so far we got nothing, and we don't know where this is supposed to end. And this feels like because they wrote the script right before filming the 3rd movie, it's like you don't have your end point. Like, what is the end point of this?
Yeah, and I think that's a problem with a lot of prequels is like you have an end point, but do you have a true end point? And with that end point, you're juggling between creating a story and connecting characters that sometimes trying to connect things and create characters, you lose track of being cohesive. Like,
oh yeah, wholeheartedly.
So, when you're just trying to be a wink, wink, nod, nod to connect characters, you'll take away from that girth of storytelling because all you're doing is plotting characters here to get to this point.
How do you tell a story that, I mean, this is set pretty far in the past, so yeah, they should have some pretty wide breadth. We know that you can only go to a certain point before it's like, okay, you've gone too far. You're starting to encroach on what was established in the previous films. But to do for this, it's just like it doesn't feel like they have a appropriate game plan.
Yeah, I think
and there's too many nods to the Harry Potter films. Like there's a big climactic scene in Secrets of Dumbledore where it's like, okay, if you watch the original Harry Potter films, you'd recognize everything that happens in there, and you'd kind of chuckle from the introduction of these elements. And then to see them here, it's like, okay, it's got a comedic laugh, but it's like, really? I mean, that's it didn't feel, it didn't have as, it didn't, a lot like the rest of the film. It's like, oh, that's nice.
Yep.
Moving on.
Yep, that's just like one bullet point for prequels. Like you're trying to make connection without explanation, or adding depth to said characters instead of just adding, just trying to connect.
Oh,
I think
yeah.
another thing with prequels is that they feel like they have to be forced within a certain box, when you can, as long as you have that endpoint and you don't change from that endpoint beyond to the current, you can create whatever you want, like you said, no matter how far back. Even if you're 100 years, you can create stories and still get to this point.
I I think two examples. I think two examples we can look at are Rogue One and The Hobbit.
Throw another one in there.
Oh,
A third one. The Rise, Dawn, and War Planet of the Apes. Those are prequels. Let's add that as good examples of
okay.
Rise of the Planet of the Apes, Dawn, and War. That's prequels too.
And that, those are really great examples because, let's talk about Planet of the Apes.
Yep.
Those three films came out in the late 90s, early 2000s.
Yeah, somewhere in there. Yeah.
Right? Big back-to-back trilogy.
Yep.
That, I mean, mid 2000s.
Somewhere, I can't remember.
Anyways, great back-to-back trilogy, and they prequel the films that were released in the 70s.
Exactly.
Right?
Yes.
But they were set so far apart that they're independent.
Yep.
In the sense that, okay, we know in the first Planet of the Apes movie, when Charlton Heston gets there, it's like, this has been a long time since the fall of man.
Yep.
And then in the Apes trilogy that Andy Serkis did, this takes us from the end of man to kind of like a feudal era of the apes.
Yep.
And before they really start to progress up. So that's a great example of a prequel that acknowledges the source, acknowledges what it's going to end up being, but doesn't sit there and go too far. It tells a story that doesn't go too far into spoiling what happens later.
Yep. They
Rogue One,
Yep.
Rogue One, for example, is a prequel that was, okay, the original Star Wars came out in 1977.
Yeah.
And this is the story that kicked off what happened, that is positioned in a way that kicks off the events of the first Star Wars film.
Yeah, A New Hope. That's a great example because it's another one where you have this plot of that original, film, and it fills in the dynamics by not changing it, and they were able to create characters within that format because they focused on the characters of their movie, knowing what the end point is instead of just trying to connect. They created characters that you followed along, that you felt emotional for that mission, that the suicide mission, to get that information to Leia.
Craig corrected me. Rise came out in 2011.
All right, I know it was somewhere.
Yeah, it was mid 2000, so definitely in there. But yeah, Rogue One is positioned in a way that it expands on an element of the first film that was the core element of what drew everybody together.
Yeah.
But it does actually have a part where it starts to encroach. And that's if you look at the fact that, okay, Rogue One happens literally hours, maybe a couple of days, but hours before the events of A New Hope.
Yeah.
Now, in A New Hope is when we get first introduced to all of this stuff. And there's the duel between Obi-Wan and Vader.
Yeah.
And they don't move very well at that point, right?
Yeah.
And to Rogue One, when they added the Vader sequence down the hallway,
yeah,
that was terrifying because, oh crap, this dude can do some.
That was the woohoo. Yeah.
Here's the thing: we have the Obi-Wan Kenobi prequel series
coming out
the end of later in May, and
within an exact month
period.
Yep.
Before Star Wars Rebels, before Rogue One,
Yep.
before all of that. This is a younger, when Luke is like a toddler, elementary age kid, and they're gonna have some duels and fighting between him and Vader. Now, that is, I think, gonna encroach slightly because now it's like, okay, these guys can move and do these things, yet the original film they don't move and do those things. So
Yeah,
it's
but
like that
you're
arguably could be a little bit of an encroachment on that because you have to walk that line. Okay, we want to have this for audience effect, but how do we fill in to make this kind of there? Or it's just we hope the fans will suspend belief on the fact that, okay, we're talking almost a 40 some odd year difference.
Yeah, that's what you call retconning. Where like retcon can be good or bad, but it's just a matter of, can you make your story, relevant, but at the same time endearing to what came previous. But retconning is something they do in the comics and any other kind of story. But what was the other example you gave?
The other example was the Hobbit Trilogy by Peter Jackson.
Yeah. That one had.
Bring this up because this is one of those trilogies that good, bad, or indifferent.
It has both. It goes both ways.
It does both ways, but it also I'm bringing this up as an example because some of the criticisms I've heard for the Hobbit trilogy is it was too many films.
I think that there is an argument to be said for that because it did have a lot of tonal shifts within the movies. Yes. And I think there's a lot of greatness into it. It kind of, it focused on the Hobbit stuff, but I think they tried too hard to connect certain things to the original trilogy of films that Peter Jackson did, that it kind of loses its way by the third film. A little bit.
Yeah,
but
and that's why I'm bringing this up as something for food for thought and audience chime in and whatever, and your thoughts on good, bad, or indifferent trilogies or sequels and prequels and all that. But you had the original film, you had the original 3 films that Peter Jackson did. So we established Lord of the Rings, we established his style, his locations, all that fun stuff. Then we have The Hobbit, which we know The Hobbit is the prequel to Lord of the Rings.
Yep.
Smaller book. He added in elements from the Silmarillion, and then just like in Lord of the Rings, they started to adjust things in the script as they were going to fit things in.
Yeah.
So you don't encroach too far on what is established relationships in the Lord of the Rings, but you find a way to add in elements to expand on that. But on the same token, this is a prequel that didn't need to be 3 films. Could have been done in 2.
It actually was planned to be 2, and then Peter Jackson pushed it to 3.
So yeah, you could see there's definitely some stuff in there, but and the reason why I'm bringing this back for a comparison to Fantastic Beasts is Fantastic Beasts is set to be like 5 films.
Yeah.
Right.
5.
So if it's set to be 5 films and you can't engage the audience across those 5 films, do you need it to be 5 films? And how far can you push before it's like, okay, this is a cash grab?
Yeah, and that's a great example you brought up with the Hobbit trilogy, because it was pushed out because of that. It's a mixture of trying to build upon elements to connect to the Lord of the Rings trilogy and a cash grab, because that third film is just one big third act.
Yeah.
So that's what it is, and I can watch it, but it's the weaker of the 3. I think
it is the weakest of the 3, but it's also the most, and it's the weakest of the 3 in one sense, but in another sense, it's the most laser focused.
Yeah.
Like the whole thing about that third film,
Battle of 5 Armies.
Battle of the 5 Armies.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
There's not much else going on.
Yeah.
And that's what's great, because sometimes with some of the other ones, like with some of the other things with Lord of the Rings, is they have like 3 or 4 different plots that you need to watch all the films to find all those plot threads get wrapped up.
Yeah.
And the nice things from it is they have some moments where they throw in some plot lines that fit well within going to the Lord of the Rings. Like that whole impromptu bit where Legolas talks to his dad, and his dad's like, "Hey, you should go north and find this person."
Yeah.
I knew his father. He was a good man.
Yeah, that's a good example.
That's a great play on for the fan service.
Yeah, that is a obvious fan service and kind of forced in, but doesn't take away from the actual, journey of the films. Because you see Legolas from the second to third in the Hobbit trilogy.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that is a good retrospective with the Battle of Five Armies, because it's a good and a bad at the same time of how pulling out, trying to connect can be sloppy, but at the same time can be amicable at the same time.
Yeah.
But I still think it could have been done in two. Yeah.
Totally fair. It could have been done in two. I mean, you had a great moment. You could add it in both ways. It might have been a little rushed because I think then you have to start asking yourself, okay, what do I cut?
Yep. Another one I just throw in there. We don't need to go too deep. Just throwing out there is a X-Men First Class and Days of Future Past.
See, Days of Future Past resets the whole timeline.
Yep. Days of Future Past does a great job of being its own story, connecting, and having ramifications because it does have that time travel plot.
Well, I mean, this is where they use the time travel. This is where time travel can be used in a positive sense.
Yeah.
Because let's be honest, people, the whole X-Men franchise is one disjointed hot mess.
It is, and Days of Future Past I think I'm gonna be biased. It's one of my favorite comic books of all time. One of the rare 5 of 5s I give it, so I can't.
I read it. I wasn't that impressed.
Yeah.
I've actually got it in the box right there.
Yeah.
I was actually kind of disappointed. I was expecting so much more than what I saw, and I was just like,
yeah.
I mean, I could see why this is like the big story because it is really impactful. But after seeing it done in so many other mediums, to see the original medium, it's like kind of anticlimactic.
Yeah.
Saying, don't hate me.
No, I'm not. No, I'm not gonna hate you.
Don't hate me.
I'm on the complete opposite of the spectrum. I think it's one of the best comic book films of all time. But all subjective.
As a film,
yeah.
Days of Future Past is great.
Yeah.
When they did it in the X-Men cartoon in the 90s, great.
I actually started
the original comic.
Yeah.
At the time, it was great.
Yeah.
Reading it after, which I can only theorize.
Yeah.
Reading it now after watching these other two interpretations. Sorry.
Yeah. No, I just love that film. But like I said, it's all subjective. But I just want to throw that in the mix as a good example of doing a prequel where you can create your own without changing too much, or it does affect the outcome in the end. But that's a good originality of prequels.
Yeah. I mean, it's a complete disjointed hot mess in the X-Men.
Yeah. So, I've been watching the animated show again on Disney Plus just
you're
because.
getting ready for when the new series launches.
Yes, but hey, that's for another day story. I have my notes. I need to focus on my notes.
All right, so yeah,
good discussion.
Yeah, that was good. That shit.
So, what do y'all think about prequels? You like them? You love them? Can people do better at planning them?
See, that's the trick. That is the trick. How do you plan a prequel and do it in a way like going back to the X-Men franchise?
Yeah.
Right. You have Zack Snyder's X-Men and X2, and we'll forget what that third one's called. We'll just pretend it won't exist. And then you have First Class. And First Class was a breath of fresh air because, we're now taking it and setting this, 40, 50 years
It's set in the 60s Cuban Missile Crisis time frame.
I mean, the first ones were set in like the late 90s, early 2000s.
Yeah.
So, they get this time change.
Yeah, they set it far enough to where they can create the original and still build up the characters. Oh.
But here, the interesting thing for that is like, you have to hit certain fixed points in time.
Yeah.
And this is like what we were talking about off the air for Fantastic Beasts. There are fixed points in time in the X-Men films that if you hadn't done Days of Future Past, you couldn't crisscross. Right?
Yeah. Days in Future Past just gave them a key to doing what they wanted.
Days of Future Past did one of the rare things from a film standpoint that allowed you to take two different casts, two different stories, using the same inspiration and interweave it in a way that it resets some very poor storytelling decisions.
Yep.
I gotta say, that's one of the things I like about the comic book industry, talking to friends who are real big into comics, and like DC's crisis events that seem to reset everything every so often, is it has a way to, it's like, it good, bad, or ugly, it resets things. Sometimes that's what you need. And maybe for a prequel series, sometimes you gotta do a prequel series to reset and then redo the core material.
That reminds me of something I read about Doctor Strange, but I'm not going to say it here because it might spoil it.
Oh no, we're not talking.
No.
Strange
No.
until after next week.
No, I'm not. It's just you triggered something that I read today. So.
Oh, okay. I'm good with that.
Oh yeah, I need to stop. I need to stop reading. We were just talking about this before, where I need to avoid the internet when a movie is coming out that has major ramifications.
You can't avoid the internet. It's not happening.
You know, because Han Solo dies in Force Awakens. Spoiler alert.
Actually, you know what? There's another great example. And that is in Filoni We Trust. Look at what they're doing with the Star Wars shows they're doing on Disney Plus versus that abysmal sequel trilogy.
They are creating their own stories within canon, but focusing on other aspects of the universe. Or at least trying to.
They're introducing elements to better explain the catastrophes of choices that were made in the sequel trilogy. I mean, we can go on that debate, take it to the chat, whatever, take it to the comments, whatever.
Palpatine had a clone who had a child, which became Rey. Yes.
Well, the whole cloning thing, all of that stuff, there's a lot of elements that they're starting to reintroduce in the Star Wars shows, but they're going to do it in a way that makes their impact in the sequel trilogy a little less. Where the hell did you pull that from?
Well, I mean,
if they end up doing the same thing they did like with Rogue One, because right now it's like you watch Rogue One, when you finish Rogue One, you're like, I'm going to put in Star Wars New Hope now.
it leads perfectly into it.
I mean, literally, it's like, all right, this ended. All right, this starts.
Yep.
I mean, that's the same kind of transition that goes from each of the Lord of the Rings film.
Yep.
Even the Hobbit ones. You know.
Yep.
It's like, all right, this ended. Here's where we pick up.
It's just it's better. I think the main stories have, if you're doing prequel, have better planning, and don't be afraid to take liberties if it's not going to change the end point.
True.
So,
True.
yeah.
Man, we chewed up talking about all that. We really didn't get any of the other fun stuff on there.
Okay. But we did start late.
Well, not really. I mean, we're almost an hour in now.
Okay.
But yeah, let's talk about that other big thing, the Netflix stuff.
Yeah, I can rapid fire the odds and ends right at the end. But the Netflix thing is interesting. I did prep. Yeah, I did kind of prep that, so I would like to
take away from your prep. I mean, you put a little effort into this. I don't want to take it away from mine.
Because I don't have school. I have a little bit more time. I have a little bit more time, people. A little bit more, just a little bit.
Yeah, I felt motivated. He's like, he texts me. It's like, hey, can you put up the notes page for the next episode? I'm feeling inspired. I'm like,
I'm inspired.
Oh, what's your bad self, buddy?
Helps out you because you get prepared. Well, I'm prepared. Prepared.
Yeah.
Double prepared. It's Inception. But anyways.
As long as it's not Tenet.
I'm looking forward to his next movie, Oppenheimer. It's going to be good. Focuses on the development of the atom bomb. So, yeah. Manhattan Project.
Radiation in them. Anyways.
Bump-a-dum.
Oh, yeah. Before we get to that, hey, if you're a Call of Duty fan and you haven't heard because you're under a rock, Call of Duty Vanguard's has an update coming that's called the Operation Monarch, and the trailer teases a return of the greatest fight showdown that is Kong and Godzilla.
Dun dun dun.
In the video game for Call of Duty, it's set to come out in a little. It come out soon. I'm curious what some of the thought is, because that's going to be kind of wild. It's like, because we're talking Call of Duty.
Yeah, that's just funny.
Throw in Monarch and the Godzilla stuff.
It's going to be fun fighting in it, but at the same time, you can fight that while also playing a specific character.
That's true. That's true.
So for Boshizzle for the 420, obviously, they
at least got to show the picture of it.
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
before put the picture up. Let's do it. Let's put the picture up. You got it.
Yeah, I'm going
there. Boom.
I mean,
our favorite guy with the gin and juice, Snoop Dogg, is a playable character in Call of Duty Vanguard.
What I love most about this is the fact that Oh Boy is running with a freaking Thompson.
Yep, Thompson is one of the things you can get. They dropped it for 420. Obviously, that explains itself. So he belongs to the Executioner Task Force, quote from the hyperbeast.com website, and even has preferred weapons, the PPSH-41, which players can unlock for free once they reach military rank 51 in Vanguard and Warzone. So yeah, that's yeah. The bundle also includes 3 legendary weapons blueprinted to help Snoop Dogg take on his enemies. The Bone Ripper Sniper Rifle, the West Coast Bling Assault Rifle, and the Shiznit SMG. Yes. So there we go.
Oh,
it makes me want to actually jump into,
I'm not a big
Call of Duty
first-person shooter guy, but I might. I mean, that
like
might
you
be
said,
fun to
Craig,
try out.
faux shizzle.
That might be fun to try out. But yeah, so Netflix released some numbers this past week, and they had a huge decline in subscriber count.
Yep. So Q1, they were actually projecting to get 2.5 million subscribers, but they actually lost 200,000. Give and take what they grow and what they lost, it was 200,000. Asterisk to that, though, is that one of the reasons for the loss is they pulled the plug on Russia. Obviously, we know why. And they lost 700,000 from there. But also, one of the only other places they lost subscriptions is the US, which was 600,000. So you pair that with the growth around the world, it came out to 200,000 loss. But because of their loss, they lost on the stock market at least 37% of their shares, which was 54 billion in a day.
Ouch.
Yeah, but it sounds like a lot. It is a lot. But for Netflix, they've been in the streaming business for a long time, and they have a huge chunk of the streaming world with over 250 million subscribers worldwide. That it's still a chink in the armor. But I thought it was interesting to talk about this because this is actually our first time where they've actually had a loss of subscribers in over 11 years.
Yes.
So, and I think this is just a sign of a course correction within the streaming world. And I think there's a multitude of factors that play into this.
Why do you think there's a course correction?
A course correction because one of the reasons I think that Netflix is starting, they hit this wall of loss of subscribers, one of them is one that you mentioned quite a few times as we've talked about the streaming wars and other things throughout the years, is limited households. There's only a finite amount of households around the country, let alone around the world, that you can get subscribers, and Netflix being their sole business is subscriptions, you're going to hit a wall. Unlike...
Yeah, but that wall is pretty damn... That bar is pretty damn high when you think about the fact that all you need to do is get each individual on the planet to subscribe to Netflix.
Yeah, but this also plays into the fact that they've been hemorrhaging money because they spend so much money on content, not licensing content, but now original content, like the latest Stranger Things, which is dropping next month, and in a couple months they split it in 2 parts. They spent 30 million per episode, and with all the original content that they're fleshing out, they're spending like billions and billions to produce all this original content. So when their sole income is only subscriptions,
that's the thing.
That's
the thing now, where you look at some of the other studios,
Apple, Prime, Warner Brothers, Disney, they all have
they're
other
all
business.
diversified.
Yeah.
Netflix is not diversified. Netflix's only bag of tricks is a subscription platform.
Yeah. So
everything else, whereas all those others, they are diversified, so they have multiple. The streaming revenue is only a small piece of the pie.
Yeah. and they only have so much licensing because they lost a big chunk of licensing with the streaming services. People creating their own streaming services. Like some of the big cash grabs that they got from was having the Marvel license. They lost that to Disney. They had Friends and The Office on there for a long time until HBO Max came into play. They got Friends, and then Peacock came up and they got The Office back. So a lot of the subscriptions came from that retention and things people recognize, because when you look at the numbers for Netflix, a lot of people watch the older content because they're familiar with it. So they're trying really hard to push out that original content to get it. And also Reed Hastings, the CEO of Netflix, says they will probably finally introduce an ad tier to try to supplement that income with it. I mean, they do have a cheap option, $9.99, which is equivalent to a lot of the cheaper options out there, but adding that ad base will add in that ad revenue. Plus, Netflix is diversifying into doing gaming. And so another article reported in IGN said they're going to be offering at least 50 games by the end of this year. So that will entail microtransactions, especially through mobile, online, and any other.
Yeah, well, the problem I'm going to see with that is you're already in a rough market. Yeah, I mean, you were the first stream. You're the OG streamer.
Yeah.
Right? OG streaming content was Netflix.
Yeah. They were the place where everybody went to.
Now you're going to try and dive into the gaming sphere. Sorry, you might want to check that, because you're already going to be in some stiff competition from the people who do it better.
Yeah, but they're not diving into it right away. They've been investing over the years and pulling, certain heads, but that's for another argument.
But still, they are literally going to be walking into already a crowded space.
Yeah. Another thing, I think this is a good cross section for Netflix, why they're hitting this wall, is another thing I said, little too much. What do I mean by little too much? Well, it's quality versus quantity. Yes, Netflix does have quality content. Ozarks, Stranger Things, some of their movies like The Irishman, Power of the Dog, Roma. But because they have so much content, you're going to have so much crap out there. Whereas you look at other streaming services where they focus on quality over quantity. That's why people go to HBO Max, even if it's not a genre or a show that you might not watch, like Euphoria, but it's still a great show. People are going to watch it, or The Wire, or Game of Thrones, or Sopranos.
The movies that are in there, not necessarily the series, but more the movies.
Another one is like Apple TV or Apple Plus. They don't have a lot of shows. They might not have certain genres that you like, but all their shows are quality. See Ted Lasso, The Newsroom. Is it Newsroom? No.
Award-winning.
Yeah. So they also have Tom Hanks over there too. So quality over quantity. I think Netflix, they're starting to move, more quality because they have to focus on the original stuff. But they have way too much stuff, which leads into another one of my points, is a lack of promotion. One thing that Netflix has always dropped the ball on, which is very obvious, is that they don't know how to promote their stuff. You go log into Netflix and you just get lost in the sea of stuff and then you find something like, oh, what is this? And then you eventually watch it, you like it or not. So their lack of promotion, they started doing better since last year.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but I think that's another thing, because when HBO releases something, they will promote it. Like a show I'm starting to watch on HBO Max too, Barry. They promoted the heck out of it. Season 3 coming back. Another one is Tokyo Vice, which has Ken Watanabe and Angus Elgort, and they promote that. And the thing is that HBO already carries the tag as the golden standard for shows. So once you see, oh, it's a HBO original, heck yeah, I'm gonna go check it out. So yeah, and
the password sharing.
Sharing.
We can't talk about Netflix without talking about password sharing. That is that's the thing. It's like, hey, I don't have a Netflix account. Now, here you go. Use mine.
Yeah, that's another thing, and they're starting to crack down on that. They've actually
so easy. I mean, I've actually had my account compromised on Netflix and had to reset my entire security and account profile.
I've had to do that with a streaming platform. I'm not going to say what, so it doesn't happen again. But Yes, that does happen. But the password sharing is another big thing, and it's another big thing Reed Hastings mentioned in the Q1 calling, that's why they're introducing a certain thing. They're introducing it in like 3 countries, Chile and 2 other ones, where they're testing out where, like, okay, if you're going to share passwords outside the household, they're going to charge you extra, like a $3 extra on that, so you can. So password sharing is a big thing. But then I think with the Netflix dropping, the one thing I always hear out there is price. Yes, Netflix has that $20 price tag for their top tier, but they have a tier system. So they do have a cheaper tier option. So at the same time,
what defines their tier is the number of simultaneous devices you.
Yeah.
So if you don't, I mean, the $20 tier is a great family plan tier, which yes, it's more expensive than everybody else's family plan.
I think people are just getting in their own way, thinking that it's too much for it. I think people forget to realize it's like when we grew up. Yeah, that's all I'm gonna say. It's like $20, you get a ton of content at unlimited stuff, and you get a choices of it. You're not gonna like everything, but you're gonna find something. And when you look across the board with the prices, like you said, it's equivalent to a lot of stuff. Disney Plus has a $20 model. Amazon can go all the way up to $14.99 for some of their stuff. Hulu can go all the way up. I put the link in the show notes. All the way up to $75. And then HBO, their top tier is $14.99. So yeah, so I think yes, economics can play into the factor, but at the same thing, I think people should just not be hypocritical and complaining about price when there are options.
Yep, there are options.
So, but yeah, I think it's just a course correction in the market, because Netflix is not the only one dealing with the stagnation. Disney Plus is also dealing with a flat line of subscriptions. HBO is chugging along, and it kind of backfired that day and date release. They thought it would bring in more subscriptions, but when they compared quarter to quarter of the same, it didn't. So they actually lost subscriptions last year, even with that day and date release. So even though you could watch Dune day and date, Matrix day and date, Kong versus Godzilla day and date, they lost subscriptions heading into Q4, and actually gained more subscription Q1 and this quarter without that day and date. So like the Batman has made a ton of money at the theaters, and then the second they dropped on HBO Max, everybody went and got an HBO Max subscription because they heard the word of mouth and saw it in the theaters. It's like, I want to watch it again. So they got subscriptions, and actually gone up. So yeah, it's affecting every streaming services, in different ways, but Netflix is the big one because of that one major factor. It's their only source of income.
All right. Well,
good discussion.
Well, I think we're going to wrap that up for tonight.
Wrap it up, people.
Thank you, everybody, for watching. Feel free to like the video.
Shizzle.
Subscribe.
My nizzles.
Thanks, Ry, for coming and hanging out again.
Namaste.
Shout out and a thank you to Sirenscape for the background music and sounds that you were hearing when we were not talking. Go to sirenscape.com for more of that fun info. Excuse me. If you want to support the studio, best way you can do that is to like and share this video. Feel free to comment below. Tell us what you liked, what you didn't like. Give us some feedback, please. Much appreciated.
Feedback.
If you want to do more, you can head on over to patreon.com/scuba studio and consider being a patron. Link in the description below. You do that. It's got some things are a little quiet right now because we're shuffling some things up. Like tonight, we're not doing an after show. Letting you know, we're not doing that tonight, but that's normally a perk that is.
Izzles my shizzles, Craig Izzles.
Night, Craig. So thank you all. Have a safe night, safe weekend. Do all those things, and remember, the best holiday in the world is Star Wars Day. So May the 4th be with you, and we will
always
see you on our next episode. Good night, everybody.
Wow.